What happened when a rich woman insulted Judge Caprio in court? The courtroom became agitated. How was the court pacified? Who was the rich woman, and why did she insult Judge Caprio? What happened behind the incident? What was the punishment given to the woman? Stay tuned. We are going to reveal the full story. The air in the Providence Municipal Courtroom always had a certain weight to it, a thick mixture of anxiety, boredom, and the faint metallic scent of regret. It was a place where ordinary people came to face the consequences of their mistakes, a great equalizer of sorts. On this particular morning, that delicate ecosystem was about to be violently disrupted. Judge Frank Caprio, a man known as much for his grandfatherly demeanor as his unwavering commitment to fairness, was presiding. He had seen it all, the tears, the excuses, the genuine hardship. But what was about to unfold would test the very limits of his courtroom's decorum. The doors swung open and Patricia Whitmore entered, not like someone arriving for a legal proceeding, but like a CEO striding into a boardroom she already owned. Her heels clicked a sharp, staccato rhythm on the linoleum floor, a sound that seemed to dismiss the very silence it broke. She was dressed in a stark, expensive cream-colored suit that looked like it had never once been wrinkled by something as common as sitting. She didn't look at the other people waiting their turn, their faces etched with worry over fines they couldn't afford. To Patricia, they were merely background scenery, extras in the movie of her life. She took a seat, her posture rigid with impatience, and pulled out her phone, the glow of the screen illuminating a face that was already bored. You could feel the energy shift. This wasn't going to be a routine hearing. When the bailiff finally called her name, Patricia Whitmore, case number 4B210075, she didn't startle. She finished typing a message, slid the phone into her purse with a slow, deliberate motion, and walked to the defendant's podium. She didn't stand before it. She posed beside it, one hand resting on the wooden surface as if it were a lectern. Judge Caprio, as is his custom, began with a gentle warmth, aiming to diffuse the inherent tension of the situation. "Good morning, Ms. Whitmore. I see here you were cited for speeding, 48 miles per hour in a 25 mile per hour residential zone. That's quite a bit over the limit." He peered at her over his glasses, his tone more concerned than accusatory. Patricia's response was not an apology or an explanation. It was a statement of fact, delivered with a chilling coolness. "Yes, I was on my way to a critical merger negotiation. The timeline was inflexible." The judge nodded slowly, taking this in. He looked down at the file in front of him, his brow furrowing slightly. "I also see this isn't your first time dealing with a speeding violation. This is your 4th ticket in the last 2 years. That's a pattern of behavior, Ms. Whitmore. A concerning one, especially in residential areas where children might be playing." A flicker of annoyance crossed Patricia's face, as if the judge had just pointed out a minor stain on her jacket. "I'm a very busy woman, Your Honor. My company employs over 300 people. I don't have the luxury of puttering around the city at a snail's pace. These interruptions," she said, gesturing vaguely around the courtroom, "are a significant drain on my productivity and, frankly, my time." There was a collective, almost imperceptible intake of breath from the gallery. Did she just call this court an interruption? Judge Caprio's expression remained neutral, but the warmth in his eyes had cooled a few degrees. "This interruption, Miss Whitmore, is the justice system. It's how we ensure everyone follows the same rules for public safety. Your responsibilities, while impressive, don't place you above the law." This was the match to the gasoline. Patricia's composure, already thin, shattered. A condescending smile touched her lips. "Above the law? Don't be dramatic. This is a revenue-generating speed trap, and we both know it. You people sit up here in your robes, creating hurdles for those of us who are actually building things, creating value. It's a bureaucracy of mediocrity. The word "you people" hung in the air, toxic and heavy. The courtroom was utterly silent now. You could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights. No one insulted Judge Caprio. No one. He was a neighborhood institution, a man who remembered defendants' names and asked about their sick mothers. He leaned forward, his voice dropping, becoming dangerously quiet. "Ms. Whitmore, I'm going to ask you to check your tone. You are in a court of law, and you will show the proper respect." But Patricia was beyond hearing a warning. The arrogance, fed by years of yes men and boardroom deference, had taken complete control. "Respect is earned, Your Honor," she sneered, putting a venomous emphasis on his title. "And so far, this process has done nothing to earn mine. I have better things to do than stand here and be lectured by a government employee about my driving habits. I'll pay the fine. Just tell me the amount so I can be done with this charade." She reached into her purse, pulling out a sleek, black checkbook with a flourish. It was a gesture of finality, a transaction she was ready to close. She looked at the judge, not with contrition, but with impatience, as if he were a slow cashier holding up her line. Judge Caprio didn't speak for a long moment. He simply watched her, his face a mask of profound disappointment. He had seen anger, he had seen fear, but this pure, unadulterated contempt for the entire process was something else entirely. It was a rot, a belief that the world was a series of transactions, and that her balance sheet exempted her from basic human decency. "Ms. Whitmore," he began, his voice low and steady. "This court is not a toll booth. You do not simply throw money at the problem and drive away. There is the matter of accountability. There is the matter of the danger you pose to families in that neighborhood. There is the matter of your repeated disregard for the law. And now, there is the very serious matter of your contempt for this courtroom." Patricia let out a short, dismissive laugh. "Accountability. My company's quarterly earnings report is a testament to my accountability. This," she waved a hand, "this is a petty fee, a cost of doing business. Now, what is the amount?" The judge's eyes narrowed. The final thread of his patience had snapped. "The original fine for your speeding violation was $150. However, given your conduct here today, I am adding a $200 contempt of court fine." For a second, Patricia looked almost satisfied. $350. A nuisance, but a payable one. She uncapped her pen. But Judge Caprio wasn't finished. He leaned back in his chair, and a new, steely resolve settled into his features. "Furthermore," he continued, the word echoing in the silent room, "due to your extensive history of speeding violations and your demonstrated lack of remorse, I am suspending your driver's license for a period of 90 days, effective immediately." The pen froze in Patricia's hand. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with genuine shock. You're what? You can't do that." "It is well within my power, Ms. Whitmore. You have proven yourself a habitual and unrepentant offender." The color drained from her face. This was no longer a financial transaction. This was a direct attack on her autonomy, her identity. A suspended license? For her? It was unthinkable. It was an indignity. The carefully constructed wall of her arrogance crumbled, revealing the raw, furious entitlement beneath. "This is outrageous," she spat, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. "This is a vindictive abuse of power. I have meetings. I have a company to run. I am not some common criminal you can ground like a child. The law makes no distinction between a common criminal and an uncommon one," the judge replied, his voice calm but unyielding. That was the final straw. The last vestige of her self-control evaporated. "I don't have to listen to this," she declared, her voice trembling with rage. "This is a farce." And with that, she turned her back on Judge Frank Caprio, snatched her checkbook from the podium, and began marching toward the heavy wooden doors of the courtroom. Gasps rippled through the gallery. The bailiff took a half step forward, his hand going to his belt. Everyone's eyes were glued to Patricia's retreating back. She was actually leaving, in the middle of her own hearing. She was just going to walk out, as if by physically removing herself, she could nullify the judge's authority, the law, the reality of the situation itself. Her heels clicked furiously toward the exit, each step a declaration of war against the very concept of consequence. She reached for the heavy brass handle, her mind already out the door, already back in her world where she made the rules. But she never touched it. Because from behind her, Judge Caprio's voice cut through the tension, not loud, not shouting, but carrying an absolute, undeniable authority that stopped her in her tracks. "Ms. Whitmore," he said, "turn around, right now. You are not dismissed." Her hand hovered, inches from the handle. The entire room held its breath. She was caught between two worlds, the one she thought she ruled, and the one where the rules actually applied to her. The choice she made in that frozen second would change everything. The sound of the judge's voice, that quiet, implacable command, seemed to freeze the very air in the room. Patricia Whitmore's hand, outstretched and ready to push her way out of this nightmare, hovered just an inch from the cold brass of the door handle. You could see the tension in her arm, in the rigid line of her shoulders. Every person in the gallery was leaning forward, eyes wide, not daring to even breathe too loudly. This was no longer about a speeding ticket. This was a standoff. It was a test of wills between one woman's monumental ego and the unyielding foundation of the law. For a long, agonizing moment, nobody moved. It felt like the entire world had paused. Then slowly, almost mechanically, Patricia turned. The expression on her face was one I'll never forget. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was a kind of stunned, disbelieving fury, mixed with the first cold trickle of a reality she couldn't control. Her cheeks were flushed a blotchy red, a stark contrast to the pristine white of her suit. She looked at Judge Caprio, not as a judge, but as a personal antagonist who had dared to lay a hand on her. "You have no right to detain me," she said, her voice low and shaking, each word clipped and precise. "I am leaving." Judge Caprio remained seated, his posture calm, but his eyes were like flint. "Bailiff," he said, without taking his gaze off Patricia. The bailiff, a large, solid man who had been watching the entire scene unfold with growing disbelief, took a firm step forward, blocking the doorway completely. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. His presence was a physical, unarguable statement. "You are not leaving." Patricia's eyes darted from the bailiff back to the judge. The reality of her situation was beginning to press in on her, a crushing weight she had never felt before. In her world, a raised voice, a threat, a signed check. These were the tools that moved obstacles. None of them were working here. The rules were different, and they applied to her just as they did to everyone else. "Sit down, Ms. Whitmore," Judge Caprio said. His tone wasn't a request. It was an order. A silent battle played out on her face. Pride screamed at her to keep walking, to test the bailiff, to force them to physically stop her. But a newer, colder voice of reason, the voice of someone realizing they are genuinely, truly trapped, whispered something else. With a look of utter contempt that she poured onto the entire room, she turned and stalked back to the podium. She didn't sit. She stood before it, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, a statue of offended pride. "Now," Judge Caprio began, folding his hands on the bench. "Let's be perfectly clear. You do not get to decide when this hearing is over. I do. You are in my courtroom. You have shown nothing but disrespect from the moment you walked in. You have insulted this court. You have insulted me. And in doing so, You have insulted the principle of justice that this room represents. You seem to believe that your success and your wealth place you in a different category of citizen. They do not. In fact, your behavior today demonstrates a profound failure of character, regardless of your professional accomplishments. He let that hang in the air for a moment, letting each word sink in. Patricia refused to look at him, her jaw clenched so tight it looked like it might crack. You tried to leave, he continued, his voice gaining a sharper edge. You turned your back on this court. That is a direct contempt, committed in the presence of the judge. The initial fine was a warning. Your actions since have shown you have no interest in heeding warnings. So, we will proceed to consequences. He opened her file again, a simple gesture that felt as final as a judge's gavel. The original speeding fine was $150. I added $200 for contempt. For the act of attempting to flee the courtroom during your own hearing, I am adding an additional $500 to that contempt charge. A sharp gasp escaped from someone in the gallery. $700 in contempt fines alone. Patricia's head jerked up, her eyes wide with a fresh wave of shock. $500? This is insane, she blurted out. The judge ignored her, his voice steady and clear. Furthermore, the suspension of your driver's license for 90 days stands. However, given your demonstrated disregard for the law and the safety of others, I am also ordering you to complete 40 hours of community service. You will report to the court clerk before you leave today to be assigned to a city cleanup crew. A cleanup crew? The words came out of Patricia's mouth as a horrified whisper. It was as if he had just sentenced her to hard labor. The image of herself in her $1,000 suit, picking up litter on the side of the road with a pointed stick, was in her mind a punishment designed purely for humiliation. The financial hit was one thing. This was a targeted assault on her very identity. The fight seemed to drain out of her all at once, replaced by a cold, sickening dread. The armor of her wealth and status had been completely pierced. It couldn't protect her from this. She couldn't write a check to get out of community service. She couldn't delegate this to an assistant. She, Patricia Whitmore, was going to have to show up in old clothes and pick up trash because a municipal court judge had told her to. The sheer, mundane reality of the punishment was its most powerful element. Judge Caprio looked at her, and for the first time, there was a flicker of something that looked almost like pity in his eyes. Not pity for her situation, but pity for the person she had chosen to become. The total fine is $850. You will pay the clerk. You will surrender your driver's license to the clerk. You will schedule your community service with the clerk. Is that understood? Patricia didn't speak. She just gave a single, tight, jerky nod. She was defeated. The woman who had marched in like a conqueror now stood shrunken and small before the bench. The illusion of her invincibility had been shattered, and what was left was just a person who had been held accountable. "This court is adjourned," Judge Caprio said softly, and gave the bench a quiet tap with his gavel. The spell was broken. The ambient noise of the courtroom returned, a rustle of whispers and shifting bodies. Patricia stood frozen at the podium for a few more seconds, as if unsure what to do now that the battle was lost. Then slowly, she turned and walked toward the clerk's window. Her steps were no longer sharp and confident. They were slow, heavy, the steps of someone carrying a new and unwelcome burden. There was no more posturing, no more insults. There was only the humbling process of compliance. She fumbled in her purse, not for her checkbook this time, but for her wallet, to retrieve the driver's license she would not see again for 3 months. It was a stunning reversal. In the span of 15 minutes, we had watched a titan be brought low, not by a rival corporation or a market crash, but by the simple, unwavering application of rules that apply to everyone. Judge Caprio didn't yell. He didn't need to. His power wasn't in his voice. It was in his authority. An authority that Patricia Whitmore's money and attitude couldn't touch. He reminded everyone in that room of a simple, powerful truth. That no matter who you are, no matter how much you have, you are still accountable for your actions. Arrogance isn't a shield, it's a target. And true justice doesn't care about your net worth. What happened to Patricia Whitmore was more than just a fine and a license suspension. It was a lesson, a very expensive, very public lesson in humility. It was a reminder that respect is a currency that can't be bought, and that sometimes the most profound justice is the kind that reminds the powerful that they are, in the end, just human. If you believe in accountability and that everyone should play by the same rules, then hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of real justice from courtrooms around the world. Let us know in the comments what you thought of Judge Caprio's ruling.